Hi, soul being absolutely beautiful every time. How you doing? This is Rudo, Mo Alchemist, also the clear channel for Sweet Venus. Welcome onto the mothership. So I'm just checking to make sure that you can actually hear me. I don't want to riff off and then 2 hours later you can't hear me. So just give me a second. But the topic at hand is that doing the solution to inconsistency is not doing more. It's actually understanding why inconsistency is the response to who you're being, right? There's an architecture behind creation. And a lot of people in the manifestation, in the business, in the psychology space, they don't really understand this because there's an disconnection between body and spirit when we're communicating the mind and manifestation and creation, and when we're actually connecting to the body, there's a disconnection from body and spirit. And this is why a lot of in America, at least I can say, there's no healing because it's all about diagnosing a patient instead of actually healing the body. So you really want to understand the source of the information you're getting from. You can get pieces, bits and pieces, but the bits and pieces are not going to give you the full picture. And I'm here to help you to put all your pieces together and finally figure out what this puzzle is about, right? So you've done the work. You've been in the motivational space. You've been in the psychology space, in the business space, and you've been actively working on yourself to create this legacy, this stewardship, this thing that you know only you are here to create. You have outgrown manifesting from your shallow self, from the self that doesn't have a depth. You want depth, right? And for you to have depth and for you to create a life that has depth, you want to actually create from your human being and not your human doer. So if you're in this God mind group that I'm live in, actually this was meant to be a paid group, and then Facebook recreated it somehow. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna work with what is, and I'm gonna share my gifts with you. And I know somebody will find this very helpful. Because yeah, there's a lot of misinformation, and I feel like it's not really misinformation because some information applies because it's the consciousness you're at, right? And that consciousness will help you get out of your situation. So for example, you usually as human doers are a manifestation of survival identity. 99% of the human beings on this planet, they're human doers because they're surviving, they're actively surviving their wounds, their childhood wounds, right? So their center is not with their inner child anymore. They're surviving their inner child, they're surviving their memories. They haven't actually actively healed their memories, and they're not creating from that healed inner child. They're surviving or moving away from the inner child. They're abandoning the inner child. And this is an unconscious thing. And so I studied cybersecurity. I created my own major for 4 years in social behavioral components of cybersecurity. So I was studying what made cybersecurity and what was the weakest link. And the weakest link is always the human. You can create cybersecurity code and it'll be unpenetrable, but the human is the weakest link. And that's what hackers know. Hackers know that we need to penetrate through the human. The human being is imperfect, right? And because we're emotional, we can do things that jeopardize ourselves, that can sabotage our well-being, that can sabotage our true intentions. And when people are not aware of this, right, this is where social engineers, people who manipulate people to get what they want, through the phone, through text, right, they understand human psychology and they use that against you. So it's the same way how your this part within you that you're aware, like, man, like I'm being inconsistent, I'm not showing up the way I want to show up, right? That part of you is this, it's the same way, right? It uses that to make you feel a certain way about yourself. Instead of seeing it as an opportunity to create internal coherence, internal stability, we are taught that for us to create that internal stability and internal coherence, we have to go seek something outside of ourselves. We have to do something outside of ourselves. We have to keep going outside of ourselves, right? And this is becomes very exhausting. It's not sustainable. It is not creating a coherent life. It's creating a fragmented life. And there are 8, 9 different thresholds. So I prepared for this call. Yeah, you can tell I have a lot of documents here. So there are 8 to 9 different thresholds of human capacity. And once you know these different capacity thresholds and you see how they've been manifesting throughout your life, you get to understand, like, oh, okay, you're gaining a different consciousness that you didn't have access to. But for you to be able to appreciate this consciousness, you actually want to understand the different thresholds and why they manifest and why, when they happen, right? So that you respond to yourself differently. Because the self, those parts that create incongruence, that create insecurity, that create the internal motivation to do more, right? The part of you that judges what you are, the part of you that creates noise in your head, it's responding to something within you, right? It's trying to protect something. But oftentimes we don't like to look at ourselves, right? We look outside of ourselves. We avoid that part of ourselves because we believe we're human experience we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're always going to believe that it's in this physical realm, right? But it's always in the unseen realm, the subconscious mind, where your human and your spirit meet together. So the depth that you're seeking is coming from your soul's values, not your human's values. Your human's values is where your soul values get integrated into, right? Because your soul, your spirit, also has limitations. It has limitations because your spirit, you can't see it by the naked eye, right? So it has limitations. Even though the soul represents our limitless capacity, our eternity, in the physical realm, it has a limitation, right? So everything in existence has a limitation. And that's what those boundaries, that limitation is a boundary. It's what protects the essence. It's what allows you to differentiate, like, oh, this is red, this is blue, this is brown, this is white, right? It's the boundary that allows you to be able to individuate different things. So limitations in that context is not a bad thing. And a lot of people confuse that limitation to the bad limitation, the limitation from the freedom, the desires you want. No, it's just how information is arranged in the universe. So you do not want to fight this limitation. You don't want to fight your negative emotions. You don't want to fight everything that's present within your body. This is just information being arranged in real time. And when you are very self-aware, this can become like a curse, right? Because you're so aware of everything that's happening, that is going on. So I'm still trying to figure out if you can hear me. No one is live here with me yet, so we're gonna figure that out. I just don't want to spend 2 hours and I'm just talking to myself. It has happened before, so. Okay, just give me 1 sec. So I just want to talk more about these different thresholds, right? Because when you notice, like, oh, you have a long streak of like going, and then out of a sudden you disappear, right? You hide, you second guess yourself, right? You overthink, you procrastinate, you question everything, you're asking ChatGPT everything, every little thing you're doing, right? You're outsourcing your center. And when you're outsourcing your center, you're not actually creating from your crown, right? You're not creating from your truth. And that's how you end up in a life that feels empty. You feel like, man, like I'm living someone else's life. I'm living a reality that doesn't mirror the true me back. I feel invisible in my life, right? It's because you've been creating from a false self instead of your true self. So we want to be able to differentiate your false self from your true self in real time. And this is what these thresholds will help you do. And these thresholds are not going to they won't be useful to you if you're still in the hustle mode, in the go, 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 go mode, right? Because in the hustle go mode, when the hustle go mode is applied to this, it distorts the field, it distorts the medicine. Because the hustle go mode is coming from a place of believing your center is outside of yourself. So we want to gain this knowledge from the human being, from the, hey, I am the door, I am the blueprint, I am the reference point. The reference point is not this person I believe knows, has more conviction than me. My reference point is not these people who have gone to school and have studied and done research for 50 years. My reference point is not this institution that has been here for 500 years. My reference point is not outside of me. I'm the reference point. Because once you recreate your life from you being the center, around you being the center, then you're not floaty anymore. You're not inconsistent because you're creating something that is very stable and consistent. You are the consistency. The inconsistency comes from you creating from an illusion. So the desires you think you want, they are the desires of your full self, the full self that believes that, hey, my parents never made me believe that my needs mattered. My emotion needs matter. So I need to do more. I need to do more and be more active and being more on so that I believe my needs matter, because that's the only time they paid attention to me, when I showed them like, oh, ta-da, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did that to make your parents happy, right? So that's it's a false self. It's coming from a false center. It's coming from a wound. It's coming from getting your sense of self from others. So we want to transmute all those points that you have within yourself that have been reference points for you that have been motivating you to seek your sense of self from outside of you in real time. So I don't know why it won't load. Okay, hold on. I think this time it'll work. If anyone is live, could you tell me if you can hear me? Because I see here that there's someone on. Let's see. Okay, I don't know what's going on. We might just need to wing it. And if you've made it up this far when you see this video, it means you can hear me, right? Yeah, let's just wing it. So, okay, so there's 8 to 9 thresholds of human capacity. I don't know. I feel like I didn't count them. Actually, it's 9, right? Okay, so The first threshold that we want to talk about is, okay, we're going to do it like this way. So I want you to really be present in your being, because this is the foundation. Being present in your body, right? Because we're often here, right? But you've grown identifying, creating an identity around this. Now we're pivoting to creating an identity around this, this body, right? The presence inside your body. So I want you to notice, to pay attention, out of 100, what is your tolerance level around belonging as you are right now? Out of 100. So if you have somewhere to write, if you don't have anywhere to write, just type it in here under the comment section, right? So out of 100, what is your tolerance level around belonging? We're not doing it from here, we're doing it from here, right? Okay? So what is your tolerance level out of 100 around safety? How safe do you feel living and creating your desired life from just who you are right here, right? Out of 100, what is your tolerance level around pleasure as you are right now? Do you feel you need to be something outside of now in order to gain pleasure in the areas you want more pleasure in? So out of 100, what is it? Out of 100, what is your tolerance level of power? What is your tolerance level out of 100 around power? So a lot of you are creating legacies to you're creating things, you're creating an identity around stewardship, right? Do you believe who you currently are as you are right now? If you switch off your mind, if you are right now, do you believe this version of you can access power, the level of power you see in your vision, right? What is your tolerance out of 100? Out of 100, what is your tolerance level around love? What is your tolerance level around love? Whatever love means to you. In whatever area, it could be around your family, it could be romantic love, it could be platonic love, friendship, sisterhood, brotherhood, whatever that means to you. What is your tolerance level out of 100? What is your tolerance level out of 100 around truth? And the truth we're talking about is the truth where it's your side of the story and their side of the story together, right? Their perspective and your perspective, the whole truth. What is your tolerance level out of 100? And this also could be truth about the truth of reality, the truth about who you really are, the truth about life, the truth about your past self, just truth in general, the whole truth. The truth you get access to when you die, right? The flash of the truth. What is your tolerance level out of 100? Out of 100, what is your tolerance level around reality? Not this reality here, just this reality that doesn't need your mind to add on to it. What is your tolerance level of it out of 100? Out of 100, what is your tolerance level around unity? Unity with the collective, unity with the people who don't have the same belief systems as you, unity with all parts of yourself, unity with your current reality, unity with the wholeness of humanity. What is your tolerance level out of 100? Okay, so now you have a reference point, right? So these were just markers of what makes us human beings, right? The most important elements that add to us being human beings, right? And it adds to the complexity of who you are. There's no solution that just like, hey, it's gonna solve everything, right? But when you understand what makes you you, you're able to respond with more nuance. You're able to be like, to notice like, oh, if I apply this other section of my life, it's responding in this way. So you're now becoming more multidimensional. You're becoming a more flexible manifester. You're able to pivot faster and without abandoning your center, this center. So you're now more able to deepen your presence in your beingness. So when you do more, you're able to pivot into being more. You know in which areas you want to pivot because you have access to this infrastructure. So now we're going to go back to belonging, your tolerance level of belonging. So you might be wondering if this is less than 50% or it's lower, or shaky, a little bit lower than the other elements of your beingness. You might have noticed like, oh, why have my relationships changed? Why have my relationships changed? No matter how much you try to communicate, no matter how much you try to connect with your people, nothing is happening, right? It feels like you have to do more, you have to perform more to keep it the way it was. But it's not coming from your center, it's coming from your full self. You can tell, right? With safety. Your sense of safety, you've outgrown your sense of safety from your past self, right? So success feels empty because you created it on an illusion of safety. Because if you created it from the true organic sense of safety, it would enrich you because it's connected from your true sense of self. You are secure in the real you. So right now, when success doesn't feel empty, it's because your sense of self that you created the success is outside of your core. With pleasure, you want to ask yourself, like, why does visibility as you are right now, not as the person you are acting as if you are to the public eye, who you truly are, when it scares you to receive it as you are, it means you have abandoned this part of you you believe is not good enough. So you can't really enjoy your life. You can't really enjoy your desires because you are maintaining this life from a false self, from a fractured self. So the pleasure that you're aligning yourself with is the pleasure that other people told you that you should enjoy. It's not actually the pleasure that you need to heal these parts. Because pleasure does heal. It's meant to heal. Your purpose, like my friend was telling me, is not to heal. It's to enjoy life. So you can't really enjoy life when the reference point for your pleasure is someone else's. Or someone tells you like, oh, you're meant to enjoy grapes. But you don't enjoy grapes. You enjoy grapefruit. For whatever reason, you enjoy grapefruit. So pay attention to where visibility scares you. With power, this is where you often self-sabotage around breakthroughs, right? So when you have a breakthrough, you're like, oh, it's working, it's working. And then there's always something that you do that stops that breakthrough from being sustainable, right? This is where the inconsistency comes from, right? All of these are coming from inconsistency. But with this breakthrough, it's more about personal power, about how you're showing up for yourself, right? That doing that creates a quantum leap, that sustains a quantum leap. You're like, you retrieve. Because there's a part of you that doesn't feel safe. Being your true self. Because when you expand without your true self, it feels shaky. It doesn't feel sustainable for a reason. Is this power outsourced or is this internal power? Because internal power, it's always sustainable because you're the reference point. With love, this is where you might often feel like money, freedom, accessing your desires, it's very emotional. You know, the emotions that consume you. It's almost like you're fighting reality. Reality is fighting you. There's a frustration around your independence. Because you're outsourcing love. And we're going to talk about these deeper when I give you the actual thresholds. But this is just, I want you to just pay attention to these elements of your life, of your beingness. How you interact with yourself in these elementals. In truth, why does your purpose keep evolving? This is where you feel like your voice is not consistent. So I remember when I was exploring my purpose, right? In the beginning, I was like, oh, I need purpose and purpose because that's what the books in my life, I was reading, they were telling me that I need purpose in order to have sustainable success. Purpose. So I was like, what's my purpose? And I believed my purpose was to create lipstick for dark-skinned girls. It's an interest of mine, but it doesn't set my heart on fire like this work does. But this work got activated within me a year later, after when I thought this was my purpose. And even in those 7 years after that, I didn't know this was my purpose. I just knew I had to survive myself and transmute whatever was life within me. And it turned out into this signature framework. So when you're resisting how your purpose is evolving, you're disconnecting yourself from your limitless self. You're disconnecting from your soul. Because your human acts like it knows everything. It wants to know everything. It wants to control so that it doesn't collapse for whatever reason, whatever part it's protecting. But when you allow yourself those parts, those false parts to collapse, then you are able to access the consistent, have this consistent access to your purpose. And some parts of you that are not really true, they have to die so that you can actually see with a new eye. So your perspective changes, your consciousness is reborn and truly transforms. So with me, like when I started coming on Facebook and marketing my ish, and because I knew something was pulling me forward to speak about whatever was alive within me. I was just posting everything. And somehow that merged with my need to survive reality. My purpose and my needing to survive reality, it started creating a distortion. And I could have sold from that frequency. I was still selling, but my soul was like, no, we need to protect the integrity of this work. So we can't really sell it to anybody. So people could read from my energy that I was selling, but my energy was closed. My heart was closed. I was communicating what I was communicating, but my heart was closed. Because I was in the process of refining the framework. It wasn't finished yet. My purpose hadn't clarified yet. So I was communicating in the process of my purpose evolving. And that's where my frustration was coming from, trying to force my purpose to land. But no, you gotta allow it, the process to happen, for the old version of you to die, for the new part of you to be revealed. But that space has to be created from the old version of you have invested time and energy into. Actually grieving, actually experiencing all these heavy emotions that your old identity were hiding behind. And this is when you realize, like, okay, my reality, if I face my current reality, I feel alone. Where I'm leading myself towards, where my soul is leading me towards, it's so lonely as hell, and I don't know where we're going. This is new territory for me. People are gonna be questioning, like, what are you doing? I mean, my dad would call me, oh, I'm evil, I'm dealing with evil stuff. But I knew the need for him to get me was less than the need for me to be true to myself. I was going to abandon myself to make my dad right. And funny enough, the rebellious part of me was the part that was trying to protect this insecurity I felt about not knowing what I was creating, because I just trusted my intuition, my gnosis, but I didn't know. I didn't really know. In my heart, it was clear what felt right, but my mind was catching up, right? And my rebellious streak is the part of me that was compensating for this vulnerable part. And I created the way I was selling, the way I was marketing, I was trying to prove to my dad, like, see, I know what I'm talking about. But when I really came back to this part I was protecting, I'm like, oh damn, I don't really know what I'm creating. But I was like, as I validated that part instead of compensating for it. I was like, oh, I see you. And how I knew about this is because all my conversations in my head, all the people who were living rent-free in my head, they were pointing back to this part. Like, oh, how can we trust you if you don't really know what you're creating? But that's the creation process, right? When you're pivoting from a human doer to a human being, there's that vulnerable point where you're like, okay, this is a new muscle I'm using and I'm living and creating from. It's meant to be vulnerable. It's meant to be raw, because that's how you become alive. When you're controlling stuff and being a human doer, you're not really alive. You're manufacturing aliveness. The aliveness is in this idea. Whereas here, the aliveness is here with you in your body. So it's all about your capacity. Do you have the capacity to really experience this aliveness? Or is your mind, most of your energy going to your mind that's taking you away from your body, right? And disconnecting you from their aliveness. Our people in the spirituality community, they make this aliveness wrong. They're like, oh, no, you're not meant to feel a lot. It's bad. It's overwhelmed. It's the collective energy. It's the collective field, which is partly true, right? But you won't be able to protect yourself from the collective field if you don't have a center, because your energy, your center will be put on all different directions, and then you burn out. So leadership here is meant to feel lonely in your current reality, because your full self is dying, and along with those full self, relationships die that were attached to that full self, that only wanted to know you through that full self, that could only connect with you through that full self. Your true self, it scares a lot of people who are not meant, who don't have the capacity to connect and engage with her or him. Can you be present without feeling uncomfortable? Can you really sink into the reality, not the illusion of the reality, the real reality? Can you really face yourself, like your health? When was the last time you had a health checkup? Why are you afraid of having a health checkup? What stories are you creating? Is that the storyline you want to live in? Right? But you're not facing that reality from bypassing, like, oh, no, this is not the reality. I feel sensations here. A lot of my energy is going through this part of my body, but we're going to act like it's not happening. No, you got to be inside your body and experience that aliveness while still holding the end result, while still saying, hey, I have the last say in my reality. This is what we're creating. But I'm still going to live the reality, experience 3D reality without abandoning myself, the truth of what's going on here. So now the more and more and more you expand your capacity to do this, the more alive you feel, there's thrill in your life. So thrill now is not in the future, it's in the present moment. So unity, why can't you relax? It's because you're disconnected from union with life, right? When you can't relax, right, it's because you're in this first threshold. So we're going to go into the thresholds. When you don't feel like life is on your side. When you feel like life is not on your side, that's threshold 1. So you don't trust life, you feel behind, you feel like everyone else has a blueprint, a handbook you didn't get. So you're surviving yourself, right? You're like, oh, where I am is wrong, what I'm doing is wrong. And you don't trust your beingness. Your beingness is not enough. So you have to abandon, you have to do to compensate for who you're being, for the lack in your beingness. And this is where your nervous system is trying to prove that you deserve to be here. This is where you hear a lot of people like, oh, I'll rest when I die, right? It's because the nervous system doesn't have a capacity to create to experience, to reveal value in them just being. Because most of their energy is here. You're just noticing where everyone else is in contrast to you. But when you come back to your internal architecture, right? Your purpose, into you being a steward, into you creating a legacy, that individualization from the collective is going to happen no matter what. But in the process of becoming that, we often forget that, oh, this is an individuation process, so I can actually transform deeply. Because when you're in the same environment that validates this false identity, you're not going to transform. You don't have any internal motivation. And it's not going to be real. It's going to be distorted. It's going to be messy. You got to be individuated from that. That's where people are not answering your phone calls. When you're trying to like keep up with everybody, your old friends from your full self, you don't have the energy. And even when you try, it's like it's forced. Your job, the job you're doing. This was during the time when I was doing I was a financial literacy campaigner. I was campaigning, and I knew intuitively, I was like, this is not it. I knew it was somewhat related to what I wanted to do. It was freedom-based. It was the idea behind it aligned with what I believed in, right? That time is mine. It's not anyone else's. It's my time. But the way that campaign was designed didn't align with my values. It's the way I was responding to it and the way I was responding to myself simultaneously. So how you're responding to who you're being and how you respond to life because of that, it tells you a lot. It reveals to you why you need to prove to deserve to be. You need to prove that you deserve to be here. So the second threshold is safety is outsourced. So this is after this threshold, right? Safety is outsourced. And let me know which of these 9 thresholds you're in. You notice yourself in. Safety is outsourced. So here, where you believe that you finally relax when you get the dream job, you get the dream body, right? You get the dream man, you get X amount of money. If I get a milli, if I get a 2 milli, then I can relax. Then I know I'll be fine, right? So you're like, okay, you are setting rules for your human being. Like, no, human being, you're too valuable. I'm gonna be a human doer until I get this, and then we can reconnect, right? So you're creating rules around your self-abandonment. And oftentimes when you do this, right, when you reach your milestone, you always find another milestone, right? It's like your nervous system is always looking for an excuse to keep staying on, to be on and on and on and on and on, and not relax into your human being. That's when it's a threshold. This threshold, safety is outsourced. So the third threshold, right? So the solutions, how you're gonna go about doing this, I kind of showed you how to do it in the first section of this video, in the first 30 minutes, but we're gonna go deeper into this in the paid container. If you scan yourself in the Sovereign Progression on my Facebook page, or if you're watching this from YouTube, you'll see the link to the Sovereign Progression. Scan your current capacity. And if you're in the Sovereign Codex in stage 4, this is where the solutions are, because these solutions need to be applied when you have the current capacity. If you don't have the current capacity, it's gonna destroy your stuff. We've got to do this the correct way, right? So I just want you to pay attention to thresholds right now. If you're in the on YouTube or in this open God Mind group. So the third threshold is you don't know what you genuinely want. So this is where you are good at, you're a master at dictating the collective desires, right? So this is in mainstream, you know, like, oh, what the trends are, you know, in the level up groups, right? Or in in your socialite circles, you know, like, oh, this is where the temperature is hottest. You know, like, oh, we gotta wear these kind of dresses because they're in. Or we only date this kind of men because, you know, that's what's in. That's what will make me look good on paper. But you're so disconnected from yourself. And I often see this in posts, right? Because I mean, I just pay attention because that's what God gifted me with. People who do this, they're very good at, like, you know, like, oh, this is the lifestyle. I know this lifestyle. I know this, the elite way of living, these elite circles, this high society. But you can tell, like, they're performing all of this. They're so disconnected from their own desires. You can still live sovereign whilst all other people are doing this. Remember when we talked about tolerance of power, personal power? If you're in this threshold, you will notice you have the lowest around this, in this threshold. You have the lowest tolerance, personal power, being able to individuate yourself and still belonging, right? So this is where you confuse approval with desire, yeah? And you confuse being needed with fulfillment. It's the same thing, but it just looks different. So you might believe that this relationship you have with your family, where they're constantly needy, they need you to pick up the phone, they need your money, they need what. You believe that's fulfillment. And maybe that also interprets in your clients. They need you. So you're always on. You're always available. Your calendar's filled up with being needed. And you believe that's fulfillment. And you're like, man, there's something missing. It's because you're creating that fulfillment from your false self, not the real you. You're trying to fill a void. So the fourth threshold is you don't trust your own decisions. So remember when I said that you make all your decisions by ChatGPT? You follow all your favorite gurus, those people who have the most conviction. You listen to all their videos before you make a decision. Maybe you research for like 10 months before you make a decision. Instead of actually going within yourself and saying, what do I need the most right now? And responding from there. You're responding from here. So a lot of people think like doing this, like, you know, it's being responsible, it's discernment. But the truth is you're just afraid of being wrong. You don't want to be wrong. You have a fear of being wrong. Being wrong is the death of you because you've created an identity around being right. And you want to protect that part. So overthinkers, I wrote this earlier, overthinkers second guess themselves because identity is around external validation. Overthinkers second guess themselves because identity is around external validation. So always like navigating like, okay, what's going on? What are they doing? What's next? Okay. But you're overthinking because you're like, you're jumping between your true self and your false self. True self, false self, true self, false self, right? So this looks like inconsistency because you're moving. Energy is not You're not accessing your energy consistently. Instead of like actually going cold turkey with your full self and burning the bridge, you're still maintaining this full self. Even though what is the healthiest and most sustainable for yourself is your true self. So the fifth threshold is love still requires self-abandonment. Love still requires self-abandonment. So this is where your empathy is distorted. So in your relationships, you either enmesh, or you avoid them, or you rescue them. Enmesh, run away, or you rescue them. So if you fall into these, into this dynamic in relationships, you're in this threshold. Here's where your healthy intimacy feels so unfamiliar. You're like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, it feels so uncomfortable. I remember with my own experience, when I had this crazy spiritual experience. If you've been in my world for a long time, I've shared this story with you where I had this, it was amazing. It was like this eye contact where you find each other in the entire room. Like the room could have 500 people and your eyes just meet all the time. And you're like, damn, like he sees me through the mask. Because I was performing, I was like, and I wasn't even aware I was performing. But having that eye contact, it made me realize, damn, I was performing. He saw through my bullshit. But every time he tried to approach me, I was running away because I was like, I don't know what to do with it. I've never had that kind of relationship before where my true self is safe to be seen. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. That's how my mind was thinking. My body was reacting. It was very intense. So it might look the same way for you. So you equate, your nervous system equates healthy intimacy to losing yourself. You're like, and a lot of people say like, oh, feeling like that when you're losing yourself, it's not healthy, it's toxic. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't, because think about it logically. When you've been hiding all your life, or you've believed that this is who you are, this identity, and you meet somebody who sees your inner world, the real you are when you close the door, when you go home, and you go into your bedroom, that self that shows up, like you're like, right? Because you're done performing. But they see that version of you. They see right through, they cut through, the eye contact pierces through. They connect to that version of you all the time. Not because they're being manipulative, but because they're present. They're attuned to who you're being. And that might be not romantic situation. It could just be a person who just sees through it. And this is what the real twin flame is all about. It's this awakening. That person was my twin flame, by the way. This is the awakening to your true self, not the full self. And you often need another person to really cut through the BS and be the mirror for you. So you can see like, oh, yeah, I've been lying to myself and I've been lying to everybody. And I mean, the lie is only going to hurt me. And a lot of people project romance onto it because of how intense it is. But oftentimes it's not romantical, right? It's not romance. When you put romance onto it, you are distorting the medicine. Because for me, it was romance. It was like, oof, yeah. It's like I felt like I was in a fairy tale movie, like my own romance. I was like, oh, I was always thinking about, oh, when we have babies, when we have blah blah blah. But that was just disconnecting me from my body. My body was saying that I didn't want this relationship. I was not ready for this relationship. And my responsibility instantly became, why don't I feel ready? Why don't I feel deserving of being seen like this, of my true self being seen, being loved, being held space for? Why don't I? And that became the work. And that became the trigger for me to awaken into my purpose 10 years later, 8 years later. It was 2 years after I came here. Yeah, 8 years later. So there's a continuum of transformation that happens. Stories, points of entry that happen for you to really transform. In the moment, you might not understand why did this happen, because they need an elevated consciousness for you to appreciate them. So you want to leave all the past memories that are very ambiguous. Every interaction you've had that's ambiguous. Our mind is always trying to create meaning, but sometimes that meaning is distorted and it slows down the transformation process. So ambiguity is good. It requires time and maturation, spiritual maturation, emotional maturation, for you to really see the whole truth. So now, when I think of him, I don't go crazy like that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's more of, I want to connect with him from curiosity, not from him making me whole, not from him making me feel like important, feel like I'm chosen, I'm desirable, I'm good enough. No, like I know that. Like I am who I am, right? I make myself feel desirable every day. I make myself feel chosen depending on what my needs are of the day, or depending on what my needs are for my inner child. My inner child is like tugging me by the heart, like, big sister, I need this. It's not him. He was just a reference point back to my center because he was a mirror, right? And that is the only external reference point that you actually ever need, the one that points you back to yourself. And maybe I might be your twin flame in this energetically. If I am, I'm sorry in advance. Who knows? So the sixth threshold is your truth gets edited before it leaves your mouth. Your truth gets edited before it leaves your mouth. So this is where okay. So I know there's a importance of thinking before you speak, right? Reading the room and knowing how to diffuse your information, what you say, because you're like, oh, this group is not ready for what I'm gonna say. They're gonna be reactive. They're gonna project the ish because they're a little immature. They don't have the capacity. Sometimes it could be a risky situation where you're like, okay, I'm gonna throw this in and see how they respond, right? There's value in that. But the one I'm talking about is when you're actually creating relationships that meet your true self, relationships from your true self, relationships, you're creating your network based on your true self, your inner circle. If I'm talking about inner circle, you know, if you've been in the sovereign progression, what I'm talking about. Your people, right? And your people includes your clients, because they're meeting the real you. They're meeting the human being, not the human doer. The human doer abandons the human being. So the human being, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. When you're trying to change what is true to you, why are you afraid you won't be received, right? This is where you're over-explaining, or when you say something what you really mean, and then you notice the other person doesn't like what they're saying, and then you try and manipulate it and change it. Like, no, this is what I meant, because you're trying to regulate the emotions. That's not your job. It's not your job to do somebody else's nervous system's job. Your job is to regulate your own emotions, not theirs, right? And this, if you do this a lot, you'll notice you get tired a lot. You get tired a lot. Your relationships are so tiring because you're always regulating everyone's emotions. And those relationships are not real. You're surviving your relationships instead of actually enjoying them, instead of actually meeting the real person and them meeting the real you, right? So this is where you can't say what you really think. You rehearse your conversations. You know, you tolerate shallow-ish, right? Shallow conversations where you're like, what am I doing here? Right? Where you rewrite your texts all the time. You write what you're truly saying, and then you delete, and then you rewrite 3 times. Yeah? Where you shrink ideas, you know, because you don't want to seem too big. You don't want to seem too like, you don't want to step on toes on people with fragile egos, right? So this is where the nice people I usually are in this threshold, where you're a nice person. Like, oh, I'm a nice person, I'm a nice person. That's your identity. Your nervous system is around rejection. You're always protecting yourself from being rejected. Instead of actually being rejected by the people who don't matter, so that you can actually recalibrate to the people who actually matter, you're preventing this transformation from happening. Because you're regulating everybody who's coming your way. Everybody, everybody, everybody. So your energy is still outsourcing away from you through this nice syndrome. And I remember when people used to say, oh, you're so nice, you're so nice. Now that I look back, this is what I was doing. And I believed, I was like, oh, I'm nice, I'm nice. I was like, yes, I'm nice. It was my sense of self. You know, because I believed being nice means I belonged, I mattered, I was a safe space. But now that I look at it, it's because I was doing a job that wasn't mine to do. And that meant I wasn't present for my own needs. And those people were relating to that part. And guess what? When I come as the real me and I'm not doing that, they're gonna have to rearrange themselves. They're gonna have to approach me differently, respond to me differently. So the 7th threshold is you mistake projection for intuition. You mistake projection for intuition. Right? Our self-aware queens, you might really appreciate this one. You notice, like, when someone's writing, you're like, yeah, they're projecting. Because with wisdom, it's neutral. It's neutral. It's, even though it might come from personal experiences, it's life-giving. It's empowering. It brings you back to your center. But when it distorts you, when it creates hierarchies, yeah, no. This is where your nervous system can't tell apart from like anxiety and intuition, or from like memory and perception. Just like you're in between, like projecting from your past, right? So let's say you get a memory from the past and you're disconnected from your body, you're still in your head. And then you communicate from that because you haven't really processed that through your body. You haven't made that mind-heart connection. And then you speak from there. You create from there. You respond to yourself from there. Or you respond to your reality from there. It's distorted. You're creating from memory instead of perception. Perception is regulated. Even after you reference your memory, you're like, okay, I'm digesting the real reality, the real truth from my wholeness. I'm reclaiming a part of me that I abandoned and left and froze back there. And then after you're fully processed in your beingness, not in your human doer, in your beingness, then you can trust your perception, because perception is just, it deepens your presence. It doesn't need extra explanation. It just is. It frees you. It enlightens you. It gives life. There's no ego involved. your ego, the real ego, is revealed. Your ego is like, now it's like your sense of self, but there's no forcing or proving needed to prove this sense of self. The ego that I'm talking about, that oftentimes the spiritual community is trying to talk about, is the ego of like idea of yourself, not your true sense of self. The ego, that's the ego we're talking about, the full self. So the 8th threshold is you collect insights you can't embody. You collect insights you can't embody. And I believe most of you are here, right? So you read another podcast, you look for another podcast, you find another podcast, you find another book, you find another coach, you find other frameworks, you try different stuff. You're like collecting. You got a full library of stuff, digital and physical. And your breakthroughs, you go to these retreats, like you're there, right? But when this has become your identity, you believe that your freedom is in what you know and you have access to. Yes, there's value in that, but you actually want to integrate what it has awakened within you. So with me, I don't believe in reading the whole book anymore, because I'm so connected. I'm so tethered to myself, to my soul. I just know, like, oh, I need to read it. I see this book. I feel like there's something for me here. And I scan it. And then I see something. I'm like, huh. And then I apply it to my own ish. And sometimes you might need to read the whole book because that's where you're at. But sometimes it's not the whole book. You just need to hear like 2 minutes. And you're like, oh, thank you. I've got it from here. Thank you. Bye. Right? That's it. Sometimes we feel like we have to force ourselves through a book. I used to do this a lot. I used to force myself through the book, and I'm like, why am I finishing this book? Why am I not finishing this? It's because I got what I needed, but I'm not acting upon it yet, because I'm still outsourcing my authority. I believe I need to know everything that they know so that I can do what they do. I'm not meant to do what they do like they do. I'm meant to do how I do like I do. But I just need a little help digesting this thing I've been chewing in the background, right? So I just need to read one page. And I'm like, oh, the chewing is different. Oh, okay. I know what to do with this. And then I go and then I create what I'm meant to create. And then I'm on to the next thing. Because when you're creating a legacy, a stewardship, or a framework, a specific framework, or whatever you're building, it's not like you once it's done, right? Your purpose doesn't just come from just one breakthrough. No, it's a progression. It's a process, right? A house is not built in a day. Well, some people can, but a baby is not a full human in one day, right? You finish developing around the age of 25, right? It takes time. So are you enjoying that time, or are you forcing like, oh, I need to be at 25 year, I need to be at 25? Or you're gonna enjoy your first year, your second year, your third year, your fourth year, fifth year, right? Success is sweeter on the side. Like a person who makes $1 million from being a human doer versus a human being, the human doer, I'm willing to bet they have diseases they're manifesting inside their body because they've abandoned themselves. They have so much chaos that comes with that $1 million. But if you're a human being, it's more coherent, it's more life-giving, it's delicious because it keeps giving. It's a gift that keeps giving. So it ends up not being about the $1 million. It ends up being about you, the center of gravity. You're like, wow, the $1 million was just the cherry on top. It's almost like God was just like, here, throwing money on you, like that's $1 million, like, yeah, right? Whereas the other $1 million, where you're a human doer, you're like, you know. So you really want to understand the difference between when your mind expands, right? When your mind expands, yes, your intellect becomes richer. But your richness, your true richness, is not reflected in your intellect. It's reflected in who you're being, right? Your life starts responding to the intellect that you have when you start integrating it, when you start bringing it into your body, when you start reconnecting your mind to your heart, right? This mind-heart connection. And that mind-heart connection, you can't outsource that. You can't let other people tell you how to engage with that. People tell you how to engage with that, it's usually because they're projecting how they connect with that. They're just sharing like, hey, this is my internal reality. But it's not about applying it directly like that. It's about really detaching and really understanding how the architecture of the medicine they're sharing, of the genius. It's not about immersing yourself into the internal world. Yeah, it's fun once in a while. But this helps you to sift through information so that you know, like, you can actually hear. You create a distance between the person you're receiving information from and you. The signal, your internal signal, becomes clearer. And if you've been hanging out on my Facebook page, you understand about the signal portfolio. You start collecting your signal portfolio, right? You're like, okay, that's my signal, that's my signal, that's my signal. When you see an advert, oh, that's my signal, right? Because life is always communicating to you in real time. But when you don't know how to listen, where to listen, when you're disconnected from yourself, the signals, the universe could be sending you signals all the time, but you're disconnected because you don't have access to your blueprint. You don't have access to your soul's blueprint. You don't know how your soul communicates to your human. So you need structured integration from your mind to your heart. And if this is your threshold, this is where you want to create your life from. And this is why personal development stops working, because it's not meant to be copy and paste. It's meant to be an opportunity for you to witness your own signal going off and responding to that, responding from that. Like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at. Okay, this is what I need. So the 9th and last threshold is you're trying to find your purpose before becoming someone who can sustain it. So I was here for a long ass time. Oof. Yeah. So this is where your vision is not matching your current capacity. And I often, I was like, man, how can they move so fast? With, you know, the pivot left, right, and center, they get results like this. How do they move so fast? It's because they have an internal capacity that I don't have access to yet. And because I'm meant to download technology in my current capacity, so I can use it in the future, I need to be here. I need to process where I'm at. And technology that we're talking about, this is, you'll learn more if you are in stage 4 of the sovereign progression. We talk more about this. Your current capacity is not wrong. The thresholds you are in, they're not wrong. They're just where you need to be and where you need to integrate, where you need to separate yourself deeply. So the sovereign progression, it helps you actually really understand, like, okay, what are my current capacity needs right now? Do I need to stay here, or do I need to start supporting my transition? It gives you a visual mapping system so that you can actually see, like, okay, so I'm in this threshold. What else do I need to do now? And even whether you stay with me or you go elsewhere, at least it gives you a reference point. Like, okay, This information that's being organized within me is this. So what do I need to ensure that I don't abandon myself, right? To ensure that I deeply support my true self. And I make sure that my tolerance level is higher in all these elementals of my being. So clarity doesn't come first, actually. Capacity comes first, because clarity comes from what you're able to digest. Remember what in the beginning when I said you receive information based on the consciousness that you have. So if you're a human doer, you wouldn't be here. You have outgrown being a human doer, right? So you're more open to this information I'm giving you. People who are in the hustle go mode, they don't care for it. They're like, you're too slow. They would have clicked off within the first 20 seconds. Because they're fast. They're like, go, 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 go. I need my information right now. I need Amazon package right now. I need everything right now. They're like agitated. But when you're a human being, you have more capacity. You've trained yourself to receive more because you stay with your being. You process with your being, not against your being. You build with your being, right? So as your capacity increases, your contribution becomes clearer. As your capacity increases, your contribution becomes clearer. Because now you're not trying to compensate for anything. You're becoming whole. You're able to experience more than one emotion at the same time. So you're able to appreciate nuances. You're able to become multidimensional. You're able to experience the contrast of your third dimension of a physical reality, showing the opposite of what you want while still holding the vision, right? I believe this is how Walt Disney, the creator of Disney, you think that idea of Disney, for it to remain such a pivotal, such a heartbeat, in the center of imagination of most children, and most children at heart adults. You think it took one day? He just held on to that vision for one day? No, it was his lifelong purpose. Even when reality didn't reflect the reality, he kept on because it was the resilience that fed the purpose. Your resilience feeds your purpose. So the resilience, oh my gosh, nothing is working, it's meant to stretch your capacity, because the capacity that allows you to actually be able to work inside the purpose has to be refined as you are walking into it, right? So purpose isn't discovered in one dramatic moment. It unfolds through the person you're becoming. It's a continual progress, continuation, right? So these are the 9 thresholds. I believe I've shared everything I needed to share. Let me know what got activated within you, what question you have, what you need me to refine for you to explain more. So I'll be leaving this in the group for a couple of days. I'll say 3, and then I'll put it on YouTube. Otherwise, I'm done here. So see you on the other side.